Early morning on November 25, 2010, hundreds of shoppers gathered outside a Houston electronics store, waiting for Black Friday deals. Security guards tried to hold back the pressing mass of people, but the crowd was too strong. Among the crowd, 34-year-old Daniel Brooks anxiously clutched a shopping list for his kids. At exactly 5:02 a.m., the doors unlocked, and the human wave surged violently forward. Daniel tripped on a shopping bag as people surged past him. He was immediately crushed by the weight of the people behind him. Screams echoed as shoppers continued pushing over the fallen. Daniel's ribs fractured under the relentless pressure. His lungs were compressed. He struggled desperately to breathe. Despite the chaos, no one noticed Daniel trapped under the pile. Security finally realized some people were pinned beneath the crowd. They tried to pull people free, but the weight of the crowd was overwhelming. By the time the entrance area cleared, Daniel was motionless. Paramedics rushed inside, attempting to save him. CPR was performed, but Daniel showed no signs of life. Bruises and fractures covered his body from the stampede. Daniel Brooks was pronounced dead at the scene. The official cause of death: compressional asphyxia from a holiday stampede. Incident 2. On November 26, 2015, the Johnson family prepared Thanksgiving dinner in their Detroit home, unaware of a dangerous gas leak. The smell of gas went unnoticed as Mary Johnson preheated the oven for her famous stuffing. At 4:12 p.m., a small spark from a faulty wiring ignited the gas in the kitchen. Flames immediately roared across the counters, engulfing the oven. Mary screamed as her husband tried to grab her, but the fire spread too quickly. Smoke filled the small kitchen instantly, obscuring everything in a grayish haze. In a panic, their son ran toward the door, slipping on spilled cooking oil. The door handle melted slightly under heat, trapping him inside. The fire exploded further when a nearby cabinet full of aerosol cans ignited. Daniel Johnson, 37, tried to rescue his son, but the heat was unbearable. Both were knocked to the ground by the force of the gas explosion. Mary crawled desperately toward the hallway, choking on thick smoke. Neighbors called 911 after hearing the explosion from outside. Firefighters arrived within minutes, but the interior was already engulfed. Daniel and his son were found unconscious near the oven. Despite immediate medical attention, both succumbed to severe burns and inhalation injuries. Mary Johnson was pulled out just in time but suffered minor burns. The cause: gas explosion from a faulty oven combined with flammable aerosols, turning a family holiday into tragedy. Incident 3. On November 27, 2021, William Tripp, 71, an experienced hunter, entered the dense forests of Jackson Township, Pennsylvania. He wore a bright orange vest and hat, following state hunting regulations. Other hunters spread out in the woods, communicating via radios. Around 10:45 a.m., 16-year-old Jared Miller spotted movement in the distance. Mistaking Tripp's bright vest for a deer in dappled sunlight, Jared raised his rifle. Without confirming his target, Jared fired the high-velocity bullet. The bullet struck Tripp directly in the head, causing immediate trauma. Silence fell over the forest as hunters realized something was terribly wrong. Other hunters rushed toward Tripp, but it was already too late. Blood stained the fallen leaves around him, steaming slightly in the cold morning air. Jared Miller immediately radioed for help, realizing the magnitude of the accident. First responders arrived within 30 minutes, confirming Tripp's death. An autopsy later revealed that the bullet severed his brainstem, causing instant death. Despite following proper safety protocols, visibility and light angles contributed to the fatal mistake. Family members were devastated upon hearing the tragic news. Psychological counseling was recommended for Jared to cope with the accidental death. The Pennsylvania Game Commission officially classified the incident as an accidental shooting. The tragedy served as a grim reminder that even experienced hunters can fall victim to a single misjudgment. Incident 4. On November 26, 2009, 17 members of the Setan and Marriage families gathered in Jupiter, Florida, for Thanksgiving dinner. The home was elegant, quiet, and filled with laughter as relatives exchanged stories. Palmer Higgs, 35, a distant relative with a history of mental illness, sat quietly at the table. No one noticed any warning signs as he joined in the conversation and said grace. Hours later, around 10 p.m., Palmer calmly retrieved a handgun from another room. He entered the living areas and began shooting his relatives methodically. His twin sisters, 33-year-old Carla Marig and pregnant Lisa Knight, were the first victims. An elderly aunt, 76-year-old Raymond Joseph, was killed where she sat. The rampage continued through the house as terrified family members screamed. Michaela Sitt, a child recently tucked into bed, was shot multiple times. Some family members survived by huddling together and calling 911. Patrick Knight and Muriel Sitton were injured but lived, shocked and bleeding. Palmer fled the scene calmly, leaving chaos in his wake. Before leaving, he was heard saying, "I've been waiting 20 years to do this." He evaded capture for over a month before being arrested at a motel in the Florida Keys. Psychiatric evaluations revealed meticulous planning behind the massacre. He was sentenced to 7 consecutive life terms in prison for his crimes. The tragedy shocked the community, leaving scars that would never fully heal. Incident 5. On November 28, 1942, hundreds of people packed the Coconut Grove nightclub in Boston for Thanksgiving celebrations. The club was over its 460-person capacity, with patrons filling every corner. At 10:15 p.m., a small fire ignited near an artificial palm tree in the Melody Lounge. The fire spread rapidly across cloth decorations hanging from the ceiling. Smoke filled the rooms before many realized what was happening. The main revolving door became jammed with panicked patrons trying to escape. Other exits were locked or blocked, trapping people inside. The fire moved faster than anyone could run, engulfing the club in minutes. Some patrons were overcome by toxic smoke and collapsed before reaching exits. Survivors described hearing screams abruptly stop as smoke filled each room. Firefighters arrived, but most victims were already beyond saving. Many were found still seated at tables, having succumbed before attempting escape. Others were crushed or suffocated at blocked exits, stacked several bodies deep. The heat was so intense that gold rings melted on victims' fingers. Survivors who escaped often died later from severe burns and lung damage. When the final count was made, 492 people had perished, marking the deadliest nightclub fire in American history. Investigations revealed that flammable decorations and overcrowding had caused the disaster. The tragedy became a grim warning for fire safety regulations nationwide.